Hi. There's a picture from our wedding day that always stuck with me. One of those candid ones. She's laughing, her head tilted back, the sunlight catching her veil, and I'm just behind her, watching like she was something sacred. I kept that photo in my wallet for years, like a lucky charm. But by the time we hit our 12th anniversary, I hadn't looked at it in months. We had dinner reservations at a place called Marcellina's. She picked it. Fancy enough to feel important, quiet enough to pretend we still had things to say. I arrived first, like always, because punctuality was still one of those things I clung to. She came 10 minutes late, no apology, just a tight-lipped smile and a comment about traffic, though her cheeks weren't flushed from rushing. She looked beautiful. That was the hard part. She always did. Sleek navy dress, earrings I bought her 3 anniversaries ago. But the way she wore it all felt curated. Like a showroom mannequin of my wife rather than the woman I once whispered secrets to at 2 a.m. We went through the motions. Ordered wine. Talked about the kids. Our son was at a sleepover, our daughter with her grandparents. We had the time, but not the connection. I noticed her glancing at her phone more than usual. A flick of her thumb under the tablecloth. Quick looks at the screen that she thought I didn't catch. I didn't say anything. I just nodded along as she told a story about her Pilates instructor, and I smiled when I should. The food came. Mine got cold. She barely touched hers. Halfway through dessert. 1 plate. 2 forks, symbolic of how we used to share everything. She leaned back, checked her watch, and said, "I'm not feeling great. Think I'll head out early." I stared at her for a second. "You okay?" "Just a headache. I'll grab a cab. You don't have to leave." I offered to take her. She declined. Too quickly. The moment she stepped outside, I dropped some cash on the table and followed. Not immediately. I gave her a head start. Then I got in my car and kept my distance. She didn't go home. She took a left off Harbor and another on Juniper, ending up on a side street near the riverfront. I parked a block back. She walked with a pace that didn't match someone nursing a headache. Confident. Comfortable. Then she stopped in front of an apartment building I didn't recognize. I sat there for a minute, just processing. I'd suspected. Of course I had. You don't live beside someone for over a decade and not feel the shift in the bed, the absence in their eyes, the little things. But a part of me, a quieter, more cowardly part, wanted to believe it was all in my head. Until she buzzed his number. The door clicked open, and she walked inside. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, hands on the wheel, heart beating calm and slow like it always did when the truth finally revealed itself. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I opened the glove box and pulled out the small wrapped box I had planned to give her at dinner. It wasn't flowers. It wasn't jewelry. It was a folded piece of paper inside, a single sentence I'd written weeks ago and rewritten again last night when I knew. Your freedom is now unconditional. No strings, no lawyers. Just go. I pulled up to the building, climbed the stairs. Apartment 304. Her coat was on the hook inside, his shoes by the door. I knocked once. No answer. I didn't knock again. I slid the small gift box through the mail slot and walked away. Not angry, not broken, just done. And as I stepped into the night air, I finally felt something I hadn't in months. Free. I drove for a while after that. No destination, just the kind of wandering that feels less like being lost and more like shedding a skin. The streets blurred past, neon signs, dim bars, the occasional couple arm in arm. And for once, I didn't feel like I was chasing something. Not love, not answers, not even closure, just space. When I got home, the house was too quiet. Still, her perfume lingered faintly in the hallway. Vanilla orchid, the one I used to compliment. I didn't turn on the lights. I just moved through the dark like a man in a place that no longer belonged to him. I passed the framed pictures in the hall. Us on the beach. Her holding our son in the hospital room. The 4 of us at Disneyland. I didn't take them down. I just looked at them differently now, like relics in a museum curated by someone I used to be. I sat at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. The file had been ready for weeks. An agreement, carefully written, offering her exactly what she once told me she wanted in one of those late-night fights neither of us won. No alimony. No property dispute. Custody 50-50. No war. Just freedom. It wasn't weakness. It was clarity. I didn't want to become the man who measured victory by how much he could strip from the woman who broke him. That wasn't love. That wasn't me. So I emailed it to her. Subject line, You're free. No body text. No drama. No final plea. Then I logged out, closed the screen, and sat in silence until the sun started rising behind the blinds. She didn't respond that day, or the next, but 3 days later, a soft knock came at the door. Mid-morning. I opened it to find her standing there in jeans and a hoodie, barefaced, hair pulled back. No makeup. No armor. She looked smaller somehow. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I just stepped aside. She walked into the kitchen and sat in the same stool she always used. Funny how habits don't ask for permission. They just settle in. "I got your email," she said. Her voice was quiet, like she'd used up most of her volume elsewhere. "Is this really what you want?" I didn't look at her when I spoke. "It's what we already have. Just not on paper." She sighed, pressed her fingers to her temples. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." I finally met her eyes. "Then how did you mean it to happen?" Silence. She didn't answer because there wasn't a good answer. And maybe that's what hurt most, that it didn't mean nothing, but it didn't mean enough. "I thought I could keep everything in balance," she said finally. "The kids. You. Me. Him." She said his name like it was nothing, like it belonged in our kitchen, like it hadn't been the weight that sank everything. I nodded, not in agreement, but understanding. I'd done my own kind of balancing act, pretending not to see the signs because the truth was too disruptive, too real. "I left the gift at his door," I said. "The paper. The choice." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She wasn't the crying type. Not even when her father died. Not even when we lost the baby in 18. She stood up, looked at me like she was about to say something profound, but all she said was, "Okay." And then she left. No hug. No promises. Just the soft sound of the door closing behind her. I stood there for a long time, just listening to the absence. The divorce papers were signed on a rainy Tuesday. No courtroom, no confrontation. Just a neutral office, 2 pens, and a mediator who spoke like this was just business. In a way, it was. She sat across from me, quiet, composed. Her ring finger bare now. I wondered when she took it off. Was it before that anniversary dinner? Or did she remove it outside his apartment, slipping it into her purse before walking through his door? The thought didn't sting anymore. Not like it used to. She glanced at me once during the signing. I didn't look back. Not out of spite, just choice. I didn't need to. I had already said everything I had to say when I followed her that night and left that box behind. Everything after that was just an echo. After it was done, I stepped out into the rain without an umbrella, let it soak into my shirt, down my collar. The cold had a way of reminding me I was alive. Still here. Still myself. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or speeches. It arrives quietly, almost like grief. You feel it in strange places. Clean dishes left for one, a bed half made, an empty toothbrush holder. But over time, you stop noticing the absences. You begin to notice the space. I moved into a smaller place 2 weeks later. 2 bedrooms. Close enough to the kids' schools. I kept the coffee table we bought in our first year of marriage, but nothing else came with me. I wanted the silence, to be honest. One night, maybe a month later, I got a text from an unknown number. He's not who I thought he was. No name. No context. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know who sent it. I did. But because for the first time in a long time, I realized I didn't need to reply. She made her choice. So did I? I didn't block the number. I just let the message sit there, unanswered, like a leaf floating on a pond. I turned off my phone, made a cup of tea, and sat on the balcony as the sun went down. It was one of those warm dusks where everything feels slower, kinder. My daughter came out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, are you sad?" I looked at her, small, sleepy, safe. "No, sweetheart," I said, lifting her into my lap. Just remembering. She laid her head on my shoulder, and we sat there in the quiet. No more pretending. No more wait. I gave her freedom that night. Not as punishment. Not even as justice. Just as truth. A gift wrapped in silence. And the beautiful thing about truth is that it doesn't beg to be understood. It simply is. I kept the photo from our wedding day. Not in my wallet, but in a drawer somewhere. Because even though it ended this way, that moment was still real. The sun still caught her veil. And I still loved her once. But that chapter closed with the softest of sounds. The click of a door, the whisper of paper sliding through a mail slot. No flowers. Just freedom. Bye-bye.